Hello guys, this is Ilangovan, Professor of Zoology. Today I would like to explain and explore certain things related to the topic genetics. We have studied in earlier classes. So what do you mean by genetics? Life beget life. So normally this field is dealing with the two aspects. One, the study of inheritance. Number two, the study of variations. So what do you mean by inheritance? Suppose if you take a dog, it always gives birth only the puppies. It never gives birth kittens. Similarly, if you take cat, it always gives birth kittens but never gives birth puppies. So the tendency of individuals to resemble their parents is called what is known as inheritance or heredity. So normally in inheritance, the characters are passed on from the parents to the progeny or the offspring. And that forms the basis of heredity, what I said earlier. The tendency of individuals to resemble their parents is called heredity. But within a litter of puppies, we could see there are differences among themselves. So the degree by which the progeny differ from the parents, and that is called what is known as variation. See, among the puppies in a litter, there are 6 puppies. Out of this, one may be black, one may be white, one may be brown. So there are variations and differences among the individuals of the same species, and that concept is called heredity. So the two aspects of genetics, what we have, the inheritance or heredity and variations that make up actually certain natural phenomena. How far the characters being transmitted from the parents to the progeny, and how far the individuals are differing from one another. That is particularly between the species, between the individuals of the same species. Now this word, genetics, was coined by Baptist. The meaning for that one, life beget life. That means always the young ones are giving birth to their species, not of any other different species. Now, you have another concept of genetics. There are different fields. For example, eugenics. This concept was first proposed by Sir Francis Galton. Sir Francis Galton. He was the first person who applied the principle of genetic knowledge, how to improve the human race, how to get a future generation of better time. And that concept also useful in the field of HGP, what is called the Human Genome Project. So the application of genetic knowledge to improve the quality of human race is called eugenics. And similarly, just we have euthanasia also. We can improve the quality of human race. We can improve the quality of human race by improving the environmental conditions. So the improvement of human race by improving the environmental conditions is another field of science in genetics, by which we can get a better future individuals in future. And we have a number of disorders caused because of changes in the genetic material, and all together called as the syndromes. So we can have certain studies to just how to rectify the characters, how to rectify the disorders, and that field of study which deals with the treatment of disorders based on the nature of the symptoms, and that field is called eugenics. So these are all some of the basic concepts, either eugenics or euthenics, or we have for example dysgenics. There is nothing but the study of undesirable traits. And we have certain basic principles before entering into this concept, the modern concepts. And these basic concepts were provided by Mendel. So altogether, Mendel was the first person. He exposed certain laws, principles to understand the meaning of heredity. And he conducted experiments. In the case of garden pea plants, for nearly 7 years, to explain the entire world, how far the characters being transmitted and how far the individuals are differing from one another. And that basic concept was provided by Gregor Mendel. He was an Austrian man. He conducted experiments for nearly 7 years from 1856 to 1863 in his own garden and found certain principles, the basic concept of the characters being transmitted from one generation to another generation. So he is the pioneer for the concept of genetics. That's why he is aptly called as father of genetics. Then, so what was his experiment? Normally, he conducted experiment for nearly 7 years and he published his work in just a German scientific journal in a paper in 1866. The name of the paper titled Experiments in Plant Hybridization. So in that one, he exposed all the phenomena, but his concept was not accepted till 1900. But by that time, he died in 1884. So his concept was revealed and re-studied and explored once again by 3 groups of scientists. They only exposed his monumental work to the world. Now let's see some of the basic concepts proposed by him. So he selected pure lines for his experimental analysis. A pure line is the one which produces the same progeny, identical progeny, when they are self-pollinated for a number of generations. For example, if you take 2 varieties, say an example of tall. Okay. So he selected pure lines for his experimentation. A pure line is the one that is the individual which produces identical progeny on self-pollination for a number of generations. For example, if you make a cross between 2 tall plants, if they are pure, if they produce the same progeny for a number of generations, that individual is called as a pure individual or a true breeding variety. Similarly, if you are taking the dwarf individuals, when the dwarf individuals, 2 dwarf individuals are crossed, if that individual produces the same phenotype, maybe the dwarf character, for a number of generations, then it is called as a pure variety or a true breeding variety. So the Mendel's success was because of selecting the pure breeding varieties for his experiment. So when compared to other scientists, he was very successful. The reason for that one is just studied the inheritance of only one character at a time. And others have studied the inheritance of many characters as a whole in an individual. But he's the only person just studied the inheritance of only one character at a time. That is why he was successful. But his work was not exposed to the public because of so many reasons. Let's see later about this one. So he selected actually in golden pea plant the total number of chromosomes 7 pairs. The total number of contrasting characters actually 34. The meaning for contrasting characters, if you take one particular character, there are 2 different varieties. For example, if you are taking the height of the plant, there are 2 different varieties. That is, for example, dwarf and as well as what is called the tall plants. If you are taking the flower color, the pink variety and also the white variety. And if you are taking the color of the cotyledon, we have just normal yellow and green. And if you are taking the shape of the cotyledons, we have round and wrinkled. So for a particular character, there are 2 just actually different varieties, and these 2 varieties are together called as the contrasting characters of a plant. So he selected 42 breeding plant varieties, though we have 34 pairs of contrasting characters in golden pea plant. He selected only 40, and these pairs were normally similar except for one character with contrasting traits. The meaning for that one, so one character, for example height, under this height we have tall and dwarf. So I mentioned earlier, he was successful because he observed the inheritance of a single trait in single experiment, and that is the main cause for his success in genetics. Now let's go further about the concept of different fields of genetics as proposed by Mendel. Now the table shows the number of contrasting characters chosen by Mendel. I mentioned earlier that chosen 7 pairs of contrasting characters. For actually we can see 7 characters which exist in 7 pairs of contrasting characters. As per the height is concerned, we have tall and dwarf, These two are called as the contrasting characters. These two are called as the contrasting characters. Likewise, we are taking the flower color, violet and white. These two are called as the contrasting characters. And similarly, the flower position, axial and terminal. So in all these cases, the first one what represented the tall, violet, axial, inflated, green, round or yellow. They represent the dominant characters. And the other side, we have the dwarf, the white, terminal, constricted, yellow, wrinkled and green varieties. They represent what is called a recessive character. Now we will see later about what it means by a dominant character and a recessive character. So, if you take any character, you have normally two different varieties, and these two varieties represent what are called the contrasting traits. But in some cases, if you are taking one particular character, we have more than two different varieties. Say an example of Drosophila eye color. In the case of Drosophila eye color, we have red, white, violet, apricot, just a pink color, and also other varieties, even using more than 8 shades of eye color. So that is actually we have more than 2 varieties available. Let us discuss about this factor later on. Now, suppose you are taking genetics. There are 2 groups of people. One group, the Mendelians. Another group, that is biometricians. According to the Mendelian people, they are the followers of the Mendel's principle. The heritable variations are continuous. According to the Mendelians, the heritable variations are actually discontinuous. I made a mistake. Heritable variations are discontinuous. The meaning for discontinuous character. So you see that one, if you are taking the height, there are 2 extremities. One tall, another one dwarf. There are no intermediate varieties. So such heritable variations are called discontinuous variations and are also qualitative. So according to the Mendelians, the heritable variations are discontinuous and qualitative. But if you are taking the body skin color, we have different skin color. Say an example of a Negro, a black, a mulatto, albino and white. So we have different shades of skin color. So according to biometricians, such heritable variations are continuous and quantitative. The meaning for that one between 2 extremities, we have intermediate characters. And the characters are controlled by the cumulative effect of many genes. But according to the Mendelian principle, the character is qualitative, controlled by the quality of the gene. Either the gene is not a dominant or recessive. This is what is called the quality. Dominancy and recessiveness represent the quality of the gene. And in the case of skin color, it is quantitative. It is because of the cumulative effect of many genes, the character has been modified, either Negro skin color or black skin color, and such people called the biometricians, they describe the heritable variations as continuous and quantitative. Okay, let's pass on to the next one. Now, before entering the field of genetics, I would like to tell something about the basic terminology. Then only it is easy to understand the field of genetics. Now, what do you mean by phenotype? For example, some people are black, some people are white, some people are just albinos, or regarding the eye color, it may be brown or blue or anything else. So this external visible appearance of a character is called as a phenotype, simply called as the physical appearance of a trait or a character. So the external visible appearance of a character or a trait is called phenotype. Now, what do you mean by genotype? The next one, genotype. So for example, suppose you are taking the tall plant. So now we have the tall plant. This is the external visible appearance. This tall character or the trait is controlled by 2 genes. Say an example of capital T, capital T. Now this tall character represents the external visible appearance of what is called as a phenotype, whereas the 2 genes responsible for the expression of this trait, namely the tone, then it is called as a genotype. Simply we can say the word genotype refers to the genetic makeup or the genetic constitution of a particular character of an individual. So similarly for dwarf, so small t. So these genes are actually representing the expression of the trait dwarf. So small t together represent the genotype of the character dwarf. Then homozygous. So what do you mean by homozygous? So we are all diploid organisms. Most of the cases you know that when either the animal or the plants, they are diploid. Now for example in human beings we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Now these chromosomes are always formed in pairs. First pair, second pair, third pair, etc. So our chromosomes are arranged, if you analyze the nature of the karyotype of human beings, they are arranged according to the decreasing order of length. Now, so in an individual in the body cells, we have diploid number of chromosomes. Now these chromosomes normally occur in pairs. Suppose I am taking first pair of chromosomes. So this is actually the first pair. Suppose let us assume the tall character. The tall character controlled by two genes. So according to the law of unique factors, each and every character is controlled by a pair of genes. This is one of the postulates proposed by Mendel. Each and every character is controlled by a pair of genes. This is called what is known as law of unique factors. Now these two genes are located on the homologous chromosomes of the same locus. Suppose I am taking, this is the fifth locus. A locus is nothing but a point in a chromosome where you have the genes are localized. Now in the case of this character concerned with the tall, the two genes normally carried by the maternal and paternal chromosomes. So in a homologous pair, one chromosome is called maternal chromosome, another one is called as paternal chromosome, and this one is coming from mother and this one is coming from father at the time of fertilization. Now I am taking the fifth locus. In the fifth locus let us assume the genes for controlling the tall character located. Genes for controlling the tall character located. Now if the two genes present on the maternal and paternal chromosomes of a homologous pair are identical, then the condition is called homozygous condition. So this is a homozygous tall. That means the two genes carried by this maternal and paternal chromosomes for the character tall are identical. So that condition is called homozygous. So homozygous is nothing but a condition where the maternal and paternal chromosomes carry similar or identical alleles at a particular locus. So this is homozygous. Let's take the next one, the heterozygous individuals. Now what do you mean by heterozygous? Now in the case of heterozygous, I am taking two chromosomes. Once again the homologous pair, the first pair of chromosomes. I am taking the tall character. Here the tall character is controlled by two genes because always for each character we need two genes expression. Now in the case of this tall character, this individual, when compared to the previous one, I represented two different alphabets of the same type, capital T and small t. Now let's assume once again the character controlling the height are located in point number 5, the locus. Point number 5, the locus. Now I am using the letters. In one chromosome, namely the maternal chromosome, we have capital T. In another chromosome, namely the paternal chromosome, we have small t. See, heterozygous is a condition, a type of genotype where the maternal and paternal chromosomes carry different alleles. But at the same locus. So capital T, small t located at the fifth locus, but they are all different. That is why that condition is called heterozygous. We are using what is called as homozygous and heterozygous to express or explain the genotype of an individual or the genetic makeup of an individual. So in the previous case, I mentioned the two genes are similar, capital T, capital T. So when the two genes are similar, I say homozygous condition. And you see that one and both are externally similar. So the external visible expression is called as a phenotype. Whereas though they are externally similar, but they are internally different. The first one you have two different alleles, or the second one we have the same alleles at the same locus. So always referring to what is called the genotype of an individual, we are using the terms homozygous and heterozygous. Now, so what are the other factors? Now what do you mean by contrasting traits? I represented that is the table where you have, if you are taking the height of the plant, there are two characters. One is tall and the other one is dwarf. If you are taking the flower color, you got pink, just then you have that's what's called the violet flower or the white flower. If you are taking the color of the cotyledons, yellow, then green. So, and such alternative forms of a character together called the contrasting traits. For example, the stem height, what I represented, tall and dwarf are the contrasting traits. Now, what do you mean by genes? So, you are resembling your parents, either mother or father, or you are just actually grandpa or grandma. What is the reason for that? This is because of certain factors located just normally on a chromosome, located on a chromosome, and they only control the characters, and they are responsible for the transmission of characters from the parents to the young ones. Now, what do you mean by a gene? They are just like a beads in a string located in the chromosome. They are only responsible for the transmission of the characters or passing of characters from the parents to the young ones. So the fundamental physical unit of heredity, that is a gene. The fundamental physical unit of heredity, that is a gene, are also called as the unit of inheritance, localized on the chromosome just like a beads in the string. Suppose you are taking the eukaryotic genes, it is a nucleoprotein. That means it's a combination of nucleic acid DNA plus protein, namely the histone protein. But in the case of prokaryotes, you know that one, there is a gene, but the gene is not associated with the histone protein, a basic protein. That's the main difference between the prokaryotic and eukaryotic genes. Anyway, genes are the fundamental physical unit of inheritance or heredity, or they are also the unit of inheritance made of nucleoprotein generally. Now, the genes were named as factors by Mendel, but they are named as genes only by Johansen in 1906. He only used the word genes. Now, what do you mean by alleles? So, we are studying the contrasting characters. Contrasting characters. For example, tall and dwarf. Tall and dwarf. These two are called as the contrasting characters. Now the tall character is produced by the gene capital T. This is the method of symbolization based on the characters appeared in the first generation. We are using the letters either capital T or small t accordingly. Let's go later. Now this dwarf character is produced by a small t alphabet, because it is a recessive character and that is a dominant character, the tone. And this is the dominant factor and this is the recessive factor. Now these are all the genes coding for contrasting characters. Simply alternatively form the same gene. Suppose I am using orally T. Capital T and small t are alleles. Capital Y, small y are alleles. Capital R, small r alleles. Alternatively form the same gene. So I am orally using the word T gene. But it exists in two forms, capital T and small t. The different alphabets are the same time. So the capital T controls the expression of the tall character. The small t controls the expression of the dwarf characters. Anyway, genes coding for these two contrasting characters here in the example are called alleles. Capital T is an allele to small t, or small t is an allele to capital T. So alternatively form the same gene. For example, round and wrinkled, red and white, if you are taking the flower color, anything else. Such alternative forms of genes are called the alleles. Then, let's go to the next one, another one. So, what do you mean by dominant trait? So, Mendel normally effected a cross between two different varieties regarding the height of the plant. He took tall and then crossed with a dwarf variety. So, in that sense, he took pure tall varieties and pure dwarf varieties. I mentioned already, a pure breeding is a one which produces the same phenotype for a number of generations. For example, when homozygous tall plants are crossed repeatedly, they will produce only the tall character. Hence, they are called as a pure breeding or the true breeding varieties. Similarly, the dwarf varieties also. So, the dwarf varieties here controlled by two recessive genes, small t, small. So, tall and dwarf, these were called the pure breeding varieties. When two pure breeding varieties are crossed, now we received now in the first generation. Now, these two pure breeding varieties constitute the parallel generation. When the two pure breeding parents are crossed, they produce the F1 generation. The F1 generation just we have received only one character. So, normally either tall or dwarf according to the nature of the dominancy. So, only one of the parallel characters will be expressed in F1 when we are crossing two pure breeding varieties regarding one particular character. Now, the character which is appearing in the first generation or the first phylean generation, F1 for phylean generation, then that character is called what is known as the dominant trait. For example, in a pair of contrasting traits of a character, namely the height, the trait that is expressed in the F1 generation is called as the dominant trait. Now, this factor responsible for the expression of this dominant trait is called as the dominant factor. The other character, namely the dwarf character, which is not being expressed in the F1 generation, is called as the recessive trait. And the factor responsible for the recessive trait is called as the recessive factor. So in the case of actually this height of the plant, the capital T or the tall character is called as a dominant trait and the capital T is called as a dominant factor. And similarly in the case of dwarf character, we have two recessive genes. And now this dwarf character is the recessive trait as it is not being expressed. We will see that one the law of dominance later. So the dwarf character is not being expressed in F1 generation. That is why it is called as a recessive trait or the character. And the gene responsible for the expression of that trait is called as recessive factor. Now, what is the difference between these two? So, if you compare the dominant factor and the recessive factor, now suppose you are taking the genotype. I am taking this is tall, homozygous tall. This is heterozygous tall, homozygous tall and heterozygous tall. I am taking this one homozygous recessive, concerned with the dwarf character. You see that one, the dominant factor can be expressed both in homozygous condition and heterozygous condition. If you are taking the dominant factor, it can be expressed both in heterozygous and homozygous condition. But whereas this recessive factor, this can be expressed only in homozygous condition. That is why it is not being expressed in the F1 generation. Once again, it is being expressed in F2 generation. We are going to see. So anyway, the main difference between the dominant factor and the recessive factor is this. The dominant factor can be expressed both in homozygous and heterozygous condition, whereas the recessive, actually the factor, can be expressed only in homozygous condition, but not in heterozygous condition. Now, so I mentioned about this what is the recessive trait. The trait that is not expressed in the F1 is called as recessive trait and the factor is recessive factor. I mentioned already the dominant factor can be expressed both in homozygous and heterozygous condition, whereas the recessive factor can be expressed only in homozygous condition. Now, monohybrid cross. So Mendel affected a number of crosses. So we have taken, actually I mentioned a number of factors or a number of characters or traits are found in an individual. So you want to study the inheritance of a particular trait. You have to take that trait alone and follow the inheritance of that trait. So anyway, a cross involving only one pair of contrasting traits is called what is known as a monohybrid cross. For example, a cross between a tall and dwarf plant. Here we are taking only one pair of contrasting traits of a single character, namely the height. So as per the height is concerned, we have to follow the inheritance of the tall and dwarf character, how far the characters have been inherited. That is why this cross is called monohybrid cross. So a cross involving only a pair of contrasting traits. Here in P plant, Mendel effected a cross between a tall and dwarf. The one represents what is called the height of the stem, and these two are considered as the contrasting characters. Such a cross is called a monohybrid cross. This is very useful to explain certain phenomena or factors related to genetics, and based on this only, Mendel effected or produced or proposed certain postulates later called as the Mendel's principles. Now, dihybrid cross. So in the previous one we are crossing tall versus dwarf, so only one pair of contrasting characters. Suppose a cross involving two pairs of contrasting characters which are considered as a pure breeding, then it is called a dihybrid cross. The cross involving two pairs of pure line contrasting traits is called dihybrid cross. For example, I am making a cross between a yellow, then round variety with just what is called a green or wrinkled variety. So this is what is called the color of the cotyledon. So the Y genes for color of the cotyledons, the R genes for the shape of the cotyledons. So he took what is called yellow for this, actually the color of the seed, and the shape of the seed round. So we are taking two pairs of characters. One that is namely the color of the cotyledon, another one the shape of the cotyledon. As we are taking two pairs of contrasting characters, namely yellow round, green wrinkle, this cross is called dihybrid cross. So the cross involving two pairs of pure line characters. So I am taking pure line, and both the characters are in the form of actually pure lines, that is yellow round and green wrinkle. So these two traits are called the contrasting traits. As we are taking two different pairs of traits, this cross is called dihybrid cross. So here the two breeding pea plant with the round seeds with yellow cotyledons, round yellow, I represented yellow round, so the seed is crossed with wrinkled seeds with green cotyledons. That is, this is for wrinkle and this one for just actually the green. Then it is called dihybrid cross. Likewise, if you are taking three different pairs of characters, we are taking three different pairs of characters. For example, I am assuming just in this manner. So this what it represented is nothing but a tri-hybrid cross. So capital A or simply A genes for one character, B genes for another character, C genes for another character. So here I am taking three characters. So three pairs of characters. So crosses involving three different pairs of contrasting characters together called tri-hybrid cross. Likewise tetrahybrid cross, etc. But we have a syllabus under this tri-hybrid cross only, and also something about the tri-hybrid cross. So anyway, based on the number of contrasting pairs of characters involved in a cross, we can say either monohybrid, one pair of contrasting characters, two pairs of contrasting characters in dihybrid cross, or a tri-hybrid cross involving three pairs of contrasting characters. Now Punnett square. So he was the first person introduced just a mathematical or a graphical representation in order to calculate the probability of genotypes. We'll see later about this one, Punnett square and dihybrid cross, to understand how many genotypes, what is the probability of genotypes, then we will get in a genetic class. So it is being represented in a graphical manner in the form of squares, and that is why it is called Punnett square. So it was developed by British geneticist Paul Reginald Punnett. So I mentioned earlier, it is a graphical representation to calculate the probability of all possible genotypes of offspring in a genetic class. Suppose for example you are making a cross between yellow, round and then green wrinkle. So automatically we are getting total number of individuals just in a ratio of 60. So it is impossible to write manually here and there. If you are writing exactly in a square, just in 16 squares, you can understand easily how far the genotypes form and what is the probability, what is the proportion, what is the ratio of different genotypes just if in a class form, and that is being represented by, that is Reginald Punnett square. Then, so normally Mendel effected just artificial crosses. So the crosses affected by him is nothing but artificial crosses. So he did actually crosses in plants, maybe the golden pea plant. So he had chosen the golden pea plant because it has been cultivated easily. That's why I have chosen that plant, golden pea plant. And so normally there is a natural phenomenon, you know that one, the transfer of pollen grains from just the anther to the stigma, and that process called pollination. So he did actually the artificial methods of pollination. For that he wanted to remove the anther from one plant, say an example from tall. Suppose we want to make a cross between tall and dwarf. He removed the anther from the tall plant and dusted the pollen grains on the stigma of another plant to effect the cross. So in this manner only he did the artificial crosses. And for that process he removed anther from one plant and dusted the pollen grains on another, on the stigma of another. That process of removal of anther manually or artificially from the male part of the flower, namely androecium, is called emasculation. So this is a method adapted by him for artificial cross. That method is nothing but cutting of anther from androecium of the flower and dusting the pollen grains on the stigma of another flower. And this method of removal of anther lobes manually from the flower is called what is known as emasculation. This is also helpful for him. So these are all some of the basic principles what we have seen so far. What is eugenics, what is euphenics, what is euthenics, the genetic terminology, etc. Now let's see how far the inheritance of a single character occurs from one generation to another. So Mendel studied the inheritance of a single gene, and that cross is called a northern monohybrid cross. Crosses involving only one pair of contrasting characters is called monohybrid cross, and that cross is effected in golden pea plant by Mendel. So we are going to talk about the inheritance of a single gene. I mentioned already, so Mendelian principles are based on monogenic inheritance. In genetics we have three types of inheritance. The basic principles will come one by one. So what do you mean by the monogenic inheritance? This is one concept. Another one, polygenic inheritance, another concept. The third type of concept is nothing but pleiotropy. So in monogenic inheritance, one gene, one character. The principle is one gene, one character. That depends on the quality of the genes. And that principle was followed by Mendel. That's why it's called Mendelian inheritance. So in Mendelian inheritance, it is a qualitative inheritance. It is a monogenic inheritance. That means a single trait or character is being expressed by actually a single gene. That's why it's called monogenic inheritance. Don't forget. So Mendelian inheritance is a monogenic inheritance, and the expression of the character is purely based on the quality of the gene, either the dominancy of the gene or the recessiveness of the gene. So that is why we are talking about the Mendelian inheritance as a monogenic inheritance or a qualitative inheritance. Now just let's study. Let's actually pass on to the next part. How far a single gene controls a single character, how far the character being transmitted to the next generation. So in the P plan, tall and dwarf represents contrasting traits of the character, the height of the stem. Earlier I mentioned. So if you're taking the height, two different varieties, tall and dwarf, and they represent the contrasting traits. And normally he took the pure lines. I mentioned the pure line is a one. Normally we can say homozygous. The homozygous individuals are also called pure. So the normal word we are using this pure also called as homozygous. So we are using the word homozygous to represent the genotype where the two things are similar. And also we are using pure line. So the homozygous individuals only considered as a pure lines because they have similar genes. As they have the similar genes, when they are self-pollinated or self-fertilized for a number of generations, they produce the same phenotype. And that is why they are called as a pure lines. So don't forget, the pure lines are nothing but homozygous individuals. Only when you have the homozygous condition, then only we can get the same phenotype for a number of generations on self-fertilization. So here now these tall and dwarf or pure lines, what I have chosen. So he crossed a homozygous tall, what I mentioned, plant to a dwarf plant to study the inheritance of a single gene. So the parents, they form the parents and they constitute the P1 generation or the parent generation. So on crossing of such pure lines, he obtained just only one of these two parents, either tall or dwarf. Actually here it's different. So he received only one of the two parents, they are for generation. So the individuals which are formed as a result of such processes constitute the first generation or first phylum generation, or simply we can say F1 generation. Now, furthermore about this one, so all F1 progeny plants were tall. So it resembles one of the parents. No intermediate variety is formed here. You see that one. We are taking tall and dwarf. So out of these two, only one being expressed in the F1 progeny, and that one is resembling one of the parents. So all F1 progeny plants were tall, like one of its parents, none were dwarf. So the dwarf character is not being expressed. So in that case, actually, based on this result, he found that the F1 is always resembling either one of the parents. No intermediate variety is formed. So though we are getting tall here, generally we can see in such processes, either the tall or the dwarf being formed. So that means either of the parents will be produced. So the F1 individuals resemble either of the two parents. So he found that F1 is always resemble either one of the parents, and that of the trait of the other parent was not seen in them. So when I am making the cross, here you see that one. As the tall character is appeared, that resembles one of the parental varieties. The trait of other parent, namely the dwarf, was not seen in this actually F1 generation. So we receive the F1 individuals after making a cross between two pure lines of tall and dwarf. The F1 resemble the tall parent. Now Mendel self-pollinated. The previous one was cross-pollination, as we are making cross between two different varieties. But here we are taking actually the same variety, the F1 variety, nothing with the tall variety. When these tall varieties are self-pollinated, and he found that in F2 generation, out of the plants produced, some of them are dwarf variety, some of them are dwarf. So normally some of the offspring that produced were normally dwarf. So that character which was not seen in the F1 generation normally once again was not expressed. Only the tall character expressed in the F1 generation, and the dwarf character was not expressed in the F1 generation. On selfing the F1 individuals, he obtained individuals, he observed some of the individuals were dwarf. The character which was not seen in the F1 but reappeared once again in the F2. And based on the principles only, he made certain concepts and principles. So in the F2 generation, he obtained the tall and dwarf varieties in the proportion of 3/4 tall and 1/4 dwarf. So out of this one, so out of the two parallel varieties, one variety is more in number and the recessive varieties least number. So, based on the results, he proposed that the reappearance of actually the dwarf character indicate the two genes, namely the tall factor and the recessive factor capital T small t, did not show any blending. There was no mixing of capital T and small t genes. That is why if there would be any mixing, then you won't get the formation of the recessive character once again F2. Because there was no blending, there was no mixing, there was no interaction between capital T and small t are the two genes for the tall and dwarf character. Once again the dwarf character reappeared. If they have actually shown any blending, we won't get such characters once again. So that was the observation made by him. So in F2 he received actually 3:1, 3 tall and 1 dwarf. That indicated that the reappearance of the dwarf character indicated that normally that character gene, named small t, did not blend with the character for tall, named the T gene. That is why once again the reappearance of the character occurred. So if there is any blending, that is mixing, then you can get intermediate character. So you will see this one in the case of, for example, incomplete dominance. So this is an example for complete dominance. That means either of the parallel characters appear in F1, one of the parallel characters not appear in F1 but reappeared once again in F2. That indicated there was no blending of the genes, capital T and small t. But in the case of incomplete dominance, if you are making a cross between two pure varieties, you will get an intermediate character. So if you are getting an intermediate character, that showed that there was a blending of the genes and that resulted in the formation of an intermediate variety. But here there is no intermediate variety. So the reappearance normally showed the genes did not show any blending. Now, so we see that when I mentioned earlier, only one of the parallel trait was expressed in the F1, and in the F2 stage, both the traits were expressed in the proportion 3:1. So, the contrasting traits did not show any blending at either F1 or F2. So, there was no blending of genes either in F1 generation or F2 generation. That was the main observation made by him just while he made a cross between two different varieties for one character. So based on these observations only he proposed certain principles or certain laws. So based on his observation he made it clear that there are certain factors what are called the hereditary units, what we represented earlier, the basic units of heredity or the units of inheritance. They are responsible for passing on the characters from the parents to the young ones. That was the basic concept observed from his crosses. So based on his observation, we propose that there are certain factors, what we call this one as genes now, serve as a basic unit of heredity and are passed from generation to generation. So I mentioned earlier, what do you mean by alleles? Here is an answer once again. Genes which code for a contrasting or a parallel contrasting traits are known as alleles. That means they are slightly different forms of the same gene. Here capital T, small t. These are slightly different forms of the same gene, T gene. So anyway, so based on his observation only he proposed a concept. There are certain units responsible for the transmission of characters from parents to young ones. Now we call this one as the genes, but he called that one as factors. So Mendel called, I mentioned already, Mendel called tall trait a dominant as appeared in the heterozygotes or hybrids of F1. So I mentioned earlier, the pure lines are also called homozygous. Likewise, the heterozygotes are also called as hybrids. So he called the trait, the one which appeared in the hybrids or the heterozygotes of F1 generation as the dominant trait. So he observed the dwarf trait disappeared in F1 but reappeared once again in the F2 generation and called the trait as a recessive. So the basic concept here, if you make a cross between any two pure line varieties, if one of the parallel characters appeared in the F1 and that character is called as the dominant, the other character which is not being expressed in the F1 but being reappeared in F2 is called as a recessive factor, so a recessive character, and the gene for that character is called a recessive factor. Now here you see that what this character is small in that plant, the F1 is nothing but heterozygous for genes controlling one character. So there are two different genes, but these two genes are concerned with controlling of one character, namely the height of the plant, but exist in two varieties. That is why this cross is called monohybrid cross. That individual is called as a monohybrid. Now this TT plant is called as what is called a monohybrid. Why is it called as a monohybrid? A hybrid is an individual differing in one or more pairs of characters. Hybrid is an individual differing in one or more pairs of characters. Here, as it is differing from only one pair of characters, this is called monohybrid. So this plant is a heterozygous having the genes, and these genes are controlling one character. It is called as a monohybrid. A monohybrid is an individual differing from one pair of contrasting characters. And as the cross between these actually homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive, namely capital T and small t is a monohybrid cross. Now in the F2 generation, as I mentioned earlier, we have the phenotypic ratio in F2 is 3:1 and the genotypic ratio in F2 is 1:3:1. Now you see that one, based on the external visible appearance, we are getting the phenotypic ratio 3:1. But if you are observing the genetic nature, so out of these three, so totally 3 tall, so tall character can be expressed, or a dominant character can be expressed at least if one dominant gene is present. See here there are two cavities. Here only one cavity, that is enough to express what is called the dominant character. So 1 plus 2, we have 3. So out of the 3 tall, one is called the homozygous tall. The remaining 2 are called heterozygous tall. Phenotypically, externally, all are tall. But if you are analyzing the genetic nature, 1 is homozygous tall and 2 are heterozygous tall. And about this, actually the dwarf variety is always homozygous recessive. So, the phenotypic ratio is 3:1, but based on the genetic nature or the genetic makeup of the individual, 1 is homozygous tall, 2 is heterozygous tall, and 1 is homozygous recessive. So, what we are getting the ratio based on the monohybrid cross, a phenotypic ratio of 3:1 and a genotypic ratio of 1:2:1. And this is the basis actually, if you will be studying later about the population genetics. The population genetics is based on actually the study of frequency of genes. If you want to calculate the frequency of genes, you have to know the nature of the genotype. Either the individual is homozygous or the individual is heterozygous, and that is the basis for calculating just simply the gene frequency, actually the population genetics. We'll see later. So the allelic pair of genes for height are identical or homozygous, T, T and TT respectively. Now, I mentioned earlier, and they represent the genotype. Either capital T or small t are called the genotype of the plant, while the descriptive terms tall and dwarf are the phenotypes, as I mentioned earlier. So, the letters make up the genotype, and the external descriptive terms represent the phenotype. Now, just I mentioned earlier the Punnett square. So normally it is used to understand a typical monohybrid class conducted by Mendel. So it is a geographic it is a graphical representation to calculate the probability of genotypes in a genetic cross. Now this is the genetic cross. We are making a cross between tall and dwarf. Now on one side we are representing the female gametes, on the other side we are representing the male gametes. So, and this gamete has a probability of crossing this one, and this one also has a probability of crossing this one. Now, so we are getting that is F1, the F1 is tall. When selfing is performed, now actually the number of gametes produced by each parent is 2. So So this tall parent produces normally just two gametes, 50% with the capital T and 50% with the small t. Similarly, the female gametes 50% with the capital T, 50% with the small t. Each male gamete has a probability of actually fertilizing this one and that one. So 1 into 2, we are getting 2 types. And similar, this one also has the ability or the probability of fertilizing this gamete and that gamete. So we are getting 1 into 2. So totally 2 plus 2, we are getting the 4 plants. This is only the typical ratio what we are getting. So out of the 4 plants, I mentioned 3 tall and 1 dwarf. 1, 2, 3. These are all the talls. So out of the 3 talls, 1 with actually the capital T, these 2 are with actually capital T, small t. This is the homozygous tall and these 2 are the heterozygous tall. And this is the homozygous recessive. That's why represented as told you already. This graphical representation is used to show the probability of possible genotypes in the progeny in a genetic cross. So the phenotypic ratio in monohybrid cross is 3:1 and the genotypic ratio is equal to 1:2:1. So these are all something about related to the monohybrid cross. We have some more thing to be actually concluded as time is not enough. So we will conclude this one in the next class. Thank you for your listening. Now I mentioned, so here is a question someone asked supposed 35 minutes ago about water alleles. I mentioned just genes coding for contrasting traits. Tall character is produced by the gene capital T and the dwarf character is produced by the recessive gene small t. So capital T is an allele to small t. So these two are the alternative form of the same gene, T gene, orally I am saying. So alternative form of the same gene affecting the same character is called as an allele. For example, here getting the height as a character. There are 2 varieties, tall and dwarf. The tall character is produced by capital T gene and the recessive character is produced by a recessive gene small t. And capital T small t are called alleles. So genes coding for contrasting characters, namely tall and dwarf. These 2 are the contrasting characters. The genes are capital T and small t. Even the contrasting pairs of characters are also called as allelomorphs. The genes are called alleles. The contrasting traits are called allelomorphs. M-O-R-P-H-S. Thank you for your question. Just if there is any question, we will discuss later. We will continue next class. Thank you.